Hi. I often say that to revoke soul contact agreements, simply saying and stating something for those that are just beginning to work with this process might not be the best approach, as they will not see very good results. And so I thought, like, hey, I'm just gonna cover the revocation steps one by one, and today we're gonna cover the first one. So specifically, I'm looking at Cameron Day. He was the one that came up with this. Cameron Day, give him all the credit. And you know, you can definitely look up this whole thing, like Lords of Karma, Why I'm No Longer a Light Worker. Very good read to understand the whole subject. And in this, as some of you have already read it and went through the material, let's look into the whole revocation process. There are like about 13, 14 steps, and today we're looking at this one specifically. Stand in the power of your divine inner self sovereignty. Expand the light of your divine inner higher self from your heart, surrounding your body in the heart sphere of your sovereign energy. So when we look at that, what does that even mean? We'll read a sentence, and a lot of people I've seen as I've guided them, when they take these steps, they simply read it over next, 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 like reading some article or sort of, yeah, like, okay, but without really getting the idea. So, in my own terms, the way I understand it, which is subjective and everyone has their own way, and that is fine, but for me, I simplified it for myself, being this is more, let's say, like a meditation, but also a little practical work. And with that, when you start the process, looking into your agreements, and before even getting to the revocation part, you need to choose what you're going to work on, define your areas of interest of what you're going to look deeper at, and find your agreements so you have a list already before doing the revocation part. And now that you have a list, let's say 20, 50, 100 items or agreements that you have already addressed, you look into this. And the very first part, stand in the power of your divine inner self sovereignty. Like, okay, well, how do I do that? For me, I pretty much go with very simply first define words. Like, for me, the key word to define would be sovereignty, because this is the most important part. So, looking at some of the websites, what does sovereign mean? It means like having the highest power or being completely independent. The other source says like one possessing or held to possess supreme power. I'm skipping political because it's not just that, it goes into way many forms. One that exercises supreme authority, and I skip this one because more like consciousness. Look at yourself like as a consciousness, as an infinite, like limitless being who can do everything and everything. You're limited in this physical body, which is where you do have a limit. But your consciousness is not limited unless you allow it. So, yeah, you see yourself as like a leader. You see yourself as a supreme being who can do everything and everything. So, just going with that and coming back to this, how do we do this step? So, simply, I would basically go like, okay, little meditative thing, and most of you probably do it every day, or like not the whole thing, but just like take a few seconds to relax. Take a few deep breaths, breathe. You can close your eyes if it's more comfortable, and this will include visualization. If you don't have visuals, simply having a thought, an intention, and then there are physical body motions you can do that will make you feel more powerful. We're gonna go into that a bit later. But basically, you can close your eyes, breathe, just get comfortable. That's like being in a comfortable position where you can finally relax is the most important part. And as you do this part, which means like stand in the power of your divine inner self sovereignty, which means like I, not just as a physical human body, but as a consciousness, as a being who has experienced stuff on earth and before, that has all the knowledge in the world and everything else, when chooses to access all the stuff. It like a lot of ways we can define ourselves, but you need to connect to your supreme power. How do you do that? For me, I take it very simply where, let's say, pictures. We need to expand that energy and get into that power. So let's say you have an energy here in your heart sphere. So as you sit, you have your eyes closed, you relax. Think of like generating this energy. Think of the best times you've had in your life. Like some of you might have watched Stranger Things, and in the latest episodes, there was a scene where Eleven like tries to help Max, and it's basically Max has to look at the best moments in life to get away from the big bad monster and sort of like get in control. And by that, you're like sort of like, okay, what makes you strong? What makes you powerful? What makes you feel good? And you look at like, like the maybe loving moments in your life, maybe when you got a puppy, maybe when you won and achieved something, when you were proud of yourself. But you look at yourself where you feel good about yourself, like, oh wow, like I'm powerful. And you have to sort of like empower it. So with that, like, how do you see yourself? Like, man, I'm a fighter. I really care for justice. I like helping people. I'm a good person. And those qualities you see within yourself, it doesn't matter what anyone else is saying unless they compliment you. And just go with empowering yourself. Focus on those good thoughts. And as you have the definition of yourself, or what would you be like if you were a god? What would you do? How you would act? How would you feel if you were a god? If you were no longer limited within your physical body, but you were consciousness, limitless, infinite, and can do anything and everything all at once, if that was your choice. And you get in that position like, hey, I'm a creator. I'm no longer a physical body that is limited and messed up. I am the creator. And from this like sort of like perception, you start generating this energy within your heart. Just like think like maybe love. You have love, you have the knowledge, you have like, I feel good. And that feeling alone is good. So focus on your heart sphere, your heart energy, and simply sort of like surround yourself within it. Like allow it to expand. You can imagine and visualize it expanding and getting all over you, and even spreading out to your room and even all over the world if you want to. But like you're creating your own energy bubble, your own. So which means like, like no one else is impacting it anymore. It's all up to you. How big do you want it? Like create your sovereign space where you have control. And this is like you're expanding your energy, you're creating it from within, you're sort of generating it as you identify what you want. Or like let's say, hey, I'm powerful, I'm strong, I'm loving, I'm confident, and this is what I want to give to the world, like kindness and love and everything else. And you expand this energy. So like this would be like a few ideas of how it will look like. Of course, it's a bit blurry because the photo is like pretty small, but you get the idea. And of course, this is like a whole different concept, but you basically expand your energy. I really like anime, for example. So for me, like, oh well, here's a simple character and he's just surrounding himself with an energy. Like it's a very simple concept, but you see like how tons of heroes all of a sudden have this energy around them and they get stronger and they're generating stuff. So for me, like, oh, okay, like I get the idea. You are empowering yourself, surrounding yourself in that sovereign energy, and boom, you have it. So with that concept in mind, you close your eyes, you are in that sovereign self, like supreme, powerful, you can do everything and everything. And, like you just expand this energy and surround yourself with it. And that's it. That's the very step. You don't have to do more than that, and of course you can. But in this step, the most important part is that you realize that you are infinite, that you are powerful, you can do everything. And with that in mind, you surround yourself in this energy that you create. You feel good, you feel content, like this is your sovereign space. No one can harm it, no one can penetrate it, you're safe, you're good, and that's yours. And this is your kingdom. And that's it. This is like the very first step, like feel good, feel empowered. From this point of view, we're gonna take on to the next steps and start working. You're no longer limited, you're no longer victim, you're no longer injured, you're powerful. This is the point of view you're gonna work from. And with this mindset, simply like, allowing yourself to meditate or give yourself a minute to get into this like, I'm strong, I'm powerful, I can do everything, and I'm gonna feel good. Talking about physical body postures, you might have heard of Tony Robbins, and he has those like things like, like depressed people have their, like, oh, they're like all like this and like they don't feel good. But those that are more empowered, they have their chest back and like, oh, I'm like head up high, and they're gonna breathe better. Like you just get in that position. If you work out, if you do something, if you achieve something in life and you feel good about yourself, how would you stand? What would your stance be like? How would you feel? Like, wow, like I'm good, I'm powerful, I can get this thing done. So you hype yourself up, but that's the most important part. You get into this powerful, supreme, sovereign position from this mindset. And everything else that happens after this, it makes it very easy to work because you're already working from not a victim perspective, but I can do everything, which makes the whole process easier. So hopefully you get the idea, and we're gonna move on to the next step pretty soon.